Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of the Nerdic Pro Podcast. My name is, as per usual, Bobby effin Salistar, and with me on the line is none other than another host of another wrestling podcast of Hitting the Turnbuckle Podcast. It is none other than Adam. Adam, what we say?
Good evening, mate. How are you doing?
Good, mate. Yeah, good. Thanks. How is you?
Yeah, busy. I'd say busy. I just had a week sort of break off the podcast a little bit because we just finished off our third co-promoted show with Ignite Wrestling, which I'm sure we'll get into in a minute. Buckle Up 3 come to an end last Sunday week. I had a kind of week to relax, just done a few standard podcasts here and there, but this week is back to the grind, as they say.
Yeah, well, Ignite, I would love to get into that at some point this evening, as the shows that you've been doing with them look amazing. And yeah, so talk us about who Adam is. Who are you, sort of thing, and sort of where did you first discover the world of pro wrestling, and how did you first develop hitting the turnbuckle?
Well, the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast wasn't developed by me, which is a side, which we'll get into. We'll do that first. So basically, during COVID, a friend of mine called Andy Burrows, who I'd met, the first time I met Andy was at a Stone Cold Steve Austin signing in HMV. He was signing copies of the Stone Cold Truth DVD. I'd met Andy then. We exchanged numbers, as people do, and we kept in contact for years. We went to watch TNA at Wembley Arena when Hogan and Bischoff were doing it. They brought down the lockdown cage as part of it. And we kept in touch. We always kept in touch. Messaging, we stupidly support the same football team, which is probably really bad. We won't get into that. And then I went to Clash at the Castle, which you spoke about, funnily enough, before we went on. I went on there, and I went to that, and as I was messaging Andy, funnily enough, on that day, saying, I'm off on to Clash at the Castle, and he said, do you fancy coming on my podcast to talk about it? We're reviewing it the next day. And I my first message back from him is that you've had a wrestling podcast and you haven't told me. Like, what's this all about? So how it worked was Andy and his mate from the US, Parker, started the podcast, as a lot of people did in COVID, right? We were locked away in our houses. We couldn't do anything. So what better way to start a podcast? So Andy started that. I joined on the podcast with the Clash at the Castle. So Hitting the Turnbuckle has always been review show. At that point, was always just wrestling review shows. So they would review every show that happened on WWE, AEW related, and then TNA come on later. So I went on the show, reviewed the show, enjoyed it, loved Andy and Parker. They were great people, and said at the end of it, if ever you need anybody, I'll be there. I'm happy to jump on and help out. 2 months later, I get a text from Andy, and it was like, look, it's difficult because Parker's in the US, Andy was in the UK, time difference, commitments, work. It was just difficult for them to get shows out as regularly as they wanted to. So Andy was like, do you fancy coming on and being a co-host? And you didn't have to ask me twice. I was already wanting to do it anyway. So that's where I come on board. And then we started from there. And 3 years later, we're 1,200 episodes deep.
12. Wow, that's a bit of a big number for episodes, isn't it?
Crazy amount, really. When I say episodes, I mean that does include shorts and little snippets and interviews and like little mini interviews and stuff. But yeah, it's a lot. The funniest one I done was from a hospital bed. That was great.
Dare I ask about this one?
It probably rolls a lot of eyes because a lot of people hear about it on the podcast. But it was before All In, the first All In. Before the first All In, I suffered heart failure the week before All In, and I didn't know I was suffering from it. Right, so I was told at the time. I went in on the Sunday. I went into the hospital on the Sunday of the Women's European Final, England and Spain.
Yes, yeah.
I was in hospital while they were playing. I got basically told that my doctor that I don't know how I've walked into a room because my blood pressure was so high. I was technically in cardiac arrest, but I didn't know, and it was one of those crazy things. Anyway, long story short, 3 days later, I was in hospital. I'd recovered, like as in they'd sorted out everything that was wrong, and I was bored. So I text Andy, have you done any podcasts this week? And he said, no. I said, well, jump on now. We'll review Monday Night Raw. So I was reviewing Raw. I clicked my background, as you can see, I've got my background. I clicked my background away and you could see all the machines and stuff. But it was just one of the funniest ones I've ever done. Probably one of the weirdest locations I've done a podcast, shall we say.
Okay, wow.
On that note, folks.
Yeah. Wow, blooming heck, yeah. Well, speaking of all in, was that the one that they did Wembley, the first one they did over here? Or was that
the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, the first one they did over here, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. From what I remember, that was a fairly good show. So yeah,
I missed it, so I don't know.
Okay,
I was discharged from the hospital on the Friday before All In, 2 days before the show, and I couldn't. So I flew. So basically, my family live in Cornwall. I live in Essex, so I always make a trip down there every year. I flew down, and I didn't know I had anything wrong with the heart, so I wasn't allowed to fly back. They said you had to wait 24 hours before I could travel home. That means it was Saturday. So I was searching through the tickets on the train line ticket thing, thinking, why can't I get a ticket to get home? And there was a train strike. And that train strike effectively cost me my All-In ticket. So, that was the reason why I missed All-In. But I did see it. I wasn't there live. But I made up for it. I've been to another All-In. And we got media credentials for Forbidden Door earlier on this year, which was really, really good.
That's good. Yeah, so the guys who I went to Clash at the Castle with in Cardiff, AEW were coming to I can't actually remember the place's name. He's in the Co-op Arena in Manchester or something.
Used to be the MEN, right?
Sorry?
Used to be the MEN?
Yes, yeah. That place. I believe the exact date is the 17th of September, and not September, December. Sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be going to that. With other All-Ins and AEW shows they've done over it. Not been able to get the time away from shows that I'm working on and work and what have you. So which is a bit of a bummer. So hitting the turnbuckle then. What have been some big podcasts you've done, whether they be reviews or interviews or little mini snippets that you've done? Have you got any memorable favourite moments that you've had since you've been on hitting the turnbuckle so far?
All of them really, because the review shows are just chatting wrestling with your mates, which is great because we all have differences of opinion. Some of them, David, who come on, who's another great friend of mine. It was quite weird actually. Sorry, just to go on a side note, I hadn't seen Andy since the TNA Impact show that we was with Hogan and Bischoff up until 3 years ago when we done a show the podcast. We went to Revolution Pro Wrestling at York Hall in Bethnal Green, and so that show 3 years ago. Although I'd been behind the camera like I am right now with Andy, I hadn't seen him for about 14 years in person since. And David followed suit. So I met David when he was in WrestleMania 28. We was out in Miami, and he's from Dudley over in Birmingham way, Tipton way. Birmingham, and I hadn't seen him since WrestleMania 28 until a show 3 years ago, which is it's a crazy thing. But some of the things, the review shows are always great because you're chatting wrestling with your friends. Interview wise, geez, there's just obviously Bischoff, Russo, Jake Roberts, Diamond Dallas Page, Buff Bagwell. Shane Douglas was amazing. You've got two coming up that we've done. We're very good. We're very good friends with the guys at NWA, and we've had an interview. We've probably interviewed 80% of the NWA roster, I would say, maybe more. We're going into the territories with NWA a little bit now as well. TNA has been fantastic. We're part of the UK media of TNA, so we get interviews as they do their media rounds, and we've got one Monday. I don't know who it is yet, but I've got an interview. Monday's the week of Bound for Glory for TNA, so I've been given a slot on Monday. I haven't been told who. All I have been told is that it's going to be in character. That's all I've been told from Monday. So
okay,
who that is. But I mean, I can't even tell you like a favorite, because there's even interviewing the UK talent that we do is special, because some of them ones just don't get a recognition and they work so hard. But yeah, I suppose my favorite probably is Eric Bischoff, I would say. I've interviewed him 3 times. And there's a story. There's a story behind Eric Bischoff's interview, and I'll quickly go into it. So, I mentioned before we started that Fiona Loughran, who's part of our show, she's also part of the Inside the Ropes team over here in the UK. Those of you that watch Inside the Ropes or go to the shows will know who she is, and you'll know Kenny and everybody there. So Eric was doing a tour over here a couple of years ago. And I said to Fiona, I haven't met him before. I'm coming to the show in London. I'll spend some time with you. If you get 5 minutes, I'll spend some time with you. And obviously I met Eric. Now, what I didn't know was that Fiona had said to Eric, "Oh, my podcast friends are coming to this show." And he said, "Well, what do you podcast on?" She goes, "Well, I do NWA with Adam, but Adam does everything." And he said to Fiona, "Oh, I'll come on the show." So Fiona was like, "Well, I'm not going to tell him. You can tell him when you meet him." So I didn't know this was happening. So I've gone into the show. I've queued up. I met actually Molly Spartan, who does the Inside the Rope stuff. So she's a Scottish wrestler. I did interview her about a year or two before. So I'd gone in, queued up, and I've gone to Eric. I said, like, "Great to meet you. We've had this chat." Fiona was like, "Oh, this is Adam. He does the podcast with me." Talking to Eric, and then I said, "Right, I've got to go because there's a queue of people behind. Really nice to meet you." And he went, "Oh, by the way, before you go, I'm coming on your podcast." And I'm not normally one to stay speechless, but I was, and it was just that moment. To say, if it wasn't for Fiona, that first podcast with Eric wouldn't have happened, and the other 2 that have followed it wouldn't have happened either. So incredible moment.
Wow. Friends in high places, I think they call that nowadays, isn't it?
I think so.
Wow. I mean, yeah, Eric, he was a huge part of obviously of the Monday Night Wars back in the day, and huge part of WCW, and obviously huge part of the WWE and TNA, etc. And yeah, so I bet they were good. So yeah, so as well, like you mentioned a few other people, Jake the Snake Roberts, Buff Bagwell, etc. Again, more huge names. I mean, getting to without trying to make you feel old, like I'd imagine you probably grew up watching these people. As it sort of happened, like as their career in the matches actually happened. So what did all that mean to you getting to work with these people, like in podcasting form, to like mean to you?
If you said to me like years ago you'd be doing this, you always hear that analogy, right? If someone said it to a young me, you'd be doing this, you wouldn't believe it. It's been truly amazing to live a dream, really. Yes, we haven't got to a stage where we're getting WWE guys on. We've had a few AEW members of the AEW roster on, and that's great. And we haven't got as far as being WWE media. But if someone said to me, if this all ended tomorrow, I would be a happy man, because I've gone and done people that I've interviewed, even Todd Gordon, the old ECW owner, I had him on about a year ago coming up actually. And it was incredible to hear his stories and stuff. And yeah, just interviewing the guys growing up, you never believe it, right? Sometimes you meet them. I've been very fortunate to meet people like The Undertaker and John Cena. I've met them personally, autographed and all that sort of stuff. But to be able to sit down and have a sit-down conversation with RVD was another one. It was one I had a conversation with. It's just, you have to sometimes pinch yourself coming off of them. Like, you're actually talking to people that you've watched growing up, or you've actually seen. And in some cases, you've seen them more than what their family done on. Because you see them for 2 hours a week on TV, 52 weeks a year. Their family doesn't get that option. But if it weren't for Andy giving me the opportunity to come on the podcast, like, I would never have done this. And I owe Andy I owe him a lot of favors, really. But I also, for that, to have those memories now, to have been interviewing those guys, is just amazing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've been doing the Nerdic Pro now for about 4.5 years, but I've been podcasting for just shy of 5. And, it's great to sort of, get to hear, people's stories, and like their time on the road, time with, because it's like everyone's different when it comes to wrestling. Do you know what I mean? And various different stories that they have. And, it's good to sort of hear, everyone's experiences, physically and like in the ring, out the ring, etc. Do you know what I mean? And it's basically like a biography, but sort of hearing the story sort of face to face, if you know what I mean. And so obviously you've got this TNA podcast coming up, and obviously you don't know who it is, and what have you. Have you done many of those before where you won't know who it is until literally last minute?
TNA a lot of the times out of 10, they'll just give you are you available at this time with this date at this time, and you'll have 15. Generally, it'll be like you get 15 minutes, and you've got to plug something up. This, for example, Mondays is about Bound for Glory. It's about TNA Plus. You don't always get the person that you're interviewing until the day. Sometimes you get that weeks in advance. It just depends. So, for an example, I knew 3 or 4 days before when I interviewed Nick and Ryan Nemeth, basically. I knew
that's
earlier.
Huge.
And coincidentally, that was our I think it was our 1000th episode or something like that. It was a landmark interview for us. I think it was our 200th special guest interview that we were doing on the show that day, and it just so happened they fell into that category. I think it was the 1000th show and the 200th guest that we had on at that time. So yeah, they were good. So sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. You just got to prepare. I mean, I've got to prepare for an in-character interview right now. So the in-character, you got to think it could just be a real bad heel, or it could just be someone in a mask, or I don't know. It could be anybody, but it's going to be in character. You've got to tweak your interview a little bit now, because you're not going to be able to do maybe talking like me and you are. We're going to have to be more talking about the character and who they are, which is going to be fun. It'll be a fun little show Monday night. Yeah,
I mean, like, you got to think, there's a lot of bits and pieces going into Bound for Glory this year. So I mean, and obviously with the whole invasion thing with NXT, like, as well, could that potentially tie into Bound for Glory, etc. Because I mean, just off the top of the head, big names in TNA at the moment, Mike Santana, the Hardys, obviously the Dudley Boys are coming back as well. Ryan and Nick Nemeth, it's Moose, Leon Slater. I mean, Leon Slater, do you know what I mean? He's from a guy who's literally can't be a couple of years older than me, to go out to America, literally just main evented NXT, when was it, yesterday, to becoming the youngest ever X Division champion ever, it's huge, you know what I mean, and so like there could be, like a whole, like a whole scroll of people that, like it could be, and so I assume you're looking forward to this one.
I look forward to every interview. It doesn't matter who it is. I tell you what, though, because I know you like your NW. I know you've got a couple of NWA guys going on. If you ever want to test yourself with an I know you've probably done it at wrestling as well. But if you want a really interesting in-character interview from someone in the NWA, try and get Alex Misery on.
Alex Misery. I was looking into, because it's funny you should say that, actually, because I was literally toyed with either Alex Misery or AJ Kazana to bring on, and I chose Kazana, right? So like I will now you say it, I will now look into trying to get Alex on, and so
I'll tell you an idea. If you do get it, if you do get Alex, check out our interview with him, and then you'll see exactly what you've got coming to you. It's crazy. It's crazy.
I mean, I've had the now NWA World TV Champion on, I'd say about a year ago, Brian Idol.
We had him recently.
A year back. Greg Anthony, who's a former 3-time NWA National Heavyweight Champion. He's been on various times. Barrett Brown, he was the leader of the Stray Dog Army in New Japan. As seen in AEW, as seen in WWE. He was the final ever NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion when Billy Corgan had taken over. Sorry? You still there?
Yeah, he never lost it. He never lost the championship.
No, he didn't. No. No.
I am back.
Yeah. Yes. Hello. Sorry. Yeah.
I am back.
You cut out for a minute. So literally, he was the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion up until when Billy Corgan had taken over the company and had to vacate it because because they were literally just focusing on the tag belts, the women's, and the 10 pounds of gold.
Right.
And at the time, and I remember Barrett Brown told a story about that. So the guy who Barrett Brown had actually beat for the NWA World Junior Heavyweight title never actually gave Barrett the legitimate belt, right?
No.
And when it come to sending over shipping out the belt that he actually had to the, at the time, NWA Vice President David Lugana, he gets a phone call saying, we've got the title, but this belt you've sent us, was this the title you actually received when you won it? And he goes, yeah. It's under suspicion that the bloke who you actually beat for it still has the legitimate belt, and because of Barrett Brown doing a statement and everything, he ended up saving the NWA a court date and everything for the NWA World Junior Heavyweight title, because the bloke who he actually beat still had the NWA World Junior Heavyweight title. Yeah, Barrett Brown was the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion, yet he never actually held the actual belt, because the bloke who Barrett Brown had actually beat, can't think of his name to save my life, but he spited David Lugana and ended up keeping the actual belt, and and because of that, he ended up saving the NWA a potential court date because he ended up writing a statement and everything, and so that was mad, and it's fun to sort of hear, things like that rather than just wrestling and all that, and So what bits and pieces? Well, hang on, before we get into that, Ignite Wrestling.
Oh, yes.
We wanted to talk about that. So your involvement with them, sort of talk us through how that sort of first come about.
Ignite, I mean, geez, they certainly don't get enough credit. They don't take the credit for helping us out, but they've done it in more ways than one. So, story with Ignite, when we started doing this, with the interviews and stuff like that, we'd sponsored a few wrestling promotions, and Andy again was like, "Oh, there's one down in Boreham Wood. It's called Ignite. It's really good. They have a lot of up and coming wrestlers on there that they're not in the big, not in the progresses or the Rev Pros, but they're working their way up to it." So I was like, okay, so that's cool. And then he said, but he's been talking to Chris, who's the owner, and he said, what about if we do a sponsored show? And I'd never seen Ignite at this. I'd never even stepped foot inside the Ignite building yet at this point. And we was going to do a sponsored show in July a couple of years ago. So, so we was doing it 3 years ago, and it was free. And I hadn't gone to see Ignite yet, but we had to announce it in the show in April if we were doing it. So I'd never been. So the show was the bitter end in April of 2022. Yeah, 2022. Something like that, 22 or 23. And I'd never been. So I walked in. First time I've been to Ignite, and the way in which Chris was with us and the team there and everything they've done, it just felt like home from day one. So it was a no-brainer. Even at that show, it was a no-brainer that we were going to do the joint show in July that year. Then discussions changed to foot. Say, well, that's July. What can we do with Ignite forever, basically, for as long as they're in existence? And Chris turned around and said, well, what if you have a championship with us? And championship is defended, and you can sponsor it, and you'll always be on. You'll always be a part of the Ignite show, and that's when the Turnbuckle Championship became a reality. And we based the Turnbuckle Championship on a Ring of Honor Championship. We wanted the championship to be a workhorse championship, but we also wanted to give our champion, whoever that may be, an opportunity to take on some of the best in UK Brit Rest. So eventually we crowned our first champion in September that year, and the championship has been there ever since, and will actually be defended next month again at their end of year show at Curtain Call 4.
That's all right, isn't it? Yeah. So,
love it.
What sort of names have actually held the Turnbuckle title then, just off the top of your head?
There's only been 3. There's only ever been 3 champions. So the first one was a guy called Smashing Mike, for people in the UK that will know him.
I love Smashing Mike. Honestly, he's brilliant. I've known Mike years, right? And he's amazing. Honestly, I bloody love that bloke.
So he was our first champion. He had the title about a year. And then Mark True beat
Fantastic,
Mike.
Yep.
Yeah, I've had my run-ins with Mr. True. There's actually a video now circulating from a show recently where I give Mark True a chop.
Oh, nice.
Very well received. Well, very well given, shall I say. Anyway, Mark, we'd had our issues with Mark, and at one show, he threw the belt at me, and he refused to compete at another show because he didn't like the fact that we were booking him against some of the best names in Brit Rest. And eventually, this year, Mark lost the title to Aluna, who is now our champion. So she is our champion. She'll be making her 3rd defense. She beat Alexis Falcon recently to retain that championship, and her next championship match is to be confirmed. I know who it is, but I'm not allowed to announce it yet.
Okay. Alexis Falcon, again, another really big name in British wrestling at the moment. So, yeah, going on to Smashing Mike. Smashing Mike was coincidentally the first ever podcast that I ever actually did. Going on 5 years ago now. I mean, I've known Mike since he first started wrestling for Falling Star. And this was literally when he was first starting out about 6-7 years ago. And yeah, mate, honestly, he's behind the scenes. He's such a nice guy. I think, such a nice guy. And yeah, I keep meaning to bring him back on. And because the stuff he did up until that point and like the stuff he's done now in the years since, it would be great to bring him back on. And yeah, so, and again, Mark True, him and Kieran Lacey, because they were in the tag team, they were doing some stuff for Noah recently, doing some tag stuff out there. And yeah, again, they're a set of guys that can go on to bigger and better things, quite easily. I also see that the Jack Landers and Ted Saban coming up for the upcoming show, I believe. I've known Jack probably longer than a decade at this point. But again, Jack is criminally underused. What I mean? He should be wrestling every single day of the week. Ted Saban, I met him for the first time a couple of weeks back at a show, and again, he's fantastic. And yeah, so yeah, so with hitting the turnbuckle and Ignite then. So with sponsoring shows then, and what does that literally just mean that you're getting, like your name mentioned on shows, or does that mean that you're sort of helping run them, like, if you know what I mean, and helping with like the booking side of things, or?
Well, we choose to help Ignite in terms of getting everything sorted on show day. So the Turnbuckle Championship, yes, we will book that to a degree. We will give Chris a list of names of people who we want to come in, and Chris will see if he can get those names. But we sponsored that whole match, so that match is covered by us. So that's part of it. But in terms of what we do for Ignite, look, we will get there the same time that Chris and the team get there. We will help set up we won't set up the ring, that's Brett's job, but we help with the cake, with setting everything else up, getting the chairs out, getting the merch tables out, making sure the guys have signed the poster, and all of them sort of small little jobs that go on behind the scenes that obviously you all know about, being a ref, because you'll get them at a certain time. So we'll get help with that. So we help with that, and we help, as I say, the Turnbuckle Championship match is purely covered by us. The difference with the buckle ups that we done was we would kind of say to Chris, can you try and get this input, this guy, these guys? We would pay for, say, the non-Ignite talent, so not the regulars, so to speak. So prime example, 2 years ago we had Luke Jacobs show up, and that was what we had Michael Oku at the first one. We done Connor Mills has been at 2 of them. Charles Crowley's been at all 3 of them. Alexis Falcon was one of the ones, the last one. Side note about Alexis Falcon is I come up with one of her nicknames.
Okay, yeah.
Strong as Yorkshire tea. It's a recent one. Okay. It's in her bio now on her things. That's me. I come up with that. But yes, it depends. So from Ignite, mainly now it's the Turnbuckle Championship, but we'll help out on show day, do as little as much that they want to help, and we now also sit behind the scenes. We always used to buy a ticket up until February, and Chris went, why are you still buying a ticket to the show? And it was like, well, we know how important ticket sales are to an independent wrestling company. So to have us sitting out there, and he then said that you're no longer buying a ticket, that you have to sit at the back with him. Okay, well, I'm not going to argue. You're the boss, right? But it's nice. It's nice. But yeah, we'll do whatever, anything Ignite would need, we would do for them, and because they've done so much for us. So it's only fitting that we return that favor.
Yeah, exactly. Sort of every little helps, really, doesn't it? When it comes to help to sort of set up a show and everything. You know what I mean? And I've worked on various shows literally all over the country, and when you're literally in the venue an hour before doors, it's literally all hands on deck sort of thing to get everything set up and what have you. And what sort of, obviously we've spoken about the TNA podcast on Monday. What other bits and pieces have you guys got coming up?
Well, yeah, I mentioned we've got the Pope coming up. Elijah Burke's coming up on the show. We were sitting down with him next week. Being released next week, so it's one I've already had done, was a streaming sensation from America, Wheezy Blonde. She'll be coming on. She's on. We've recorded with Wheezy on Tuesday, so she's coming on next week. So it'll be on YouTube, shall we say, next week. So the Pope, we've got a couple. We're doing a big coverage of Exodus Pro Wrestling in a couple of weeks' time. They've got a show coming up called Hexodus on the NWA YouTube channel on the 11th of October. We're going to be covering that, and then, well, all being well, the very next day, and for those NWA fans that will know who the Slime Balls are. Potentially they will be coming on the show the next day. It's not confirmed yet, so I probably shouldn't have said that, but they'll be coming on at some point, as will, for the third time, and this is when we can make it happen, because he has promised me he'll be coming on. That's the third time we'll have EC3 on the show. That kind of come from the work that we did with Exodus last time, which I'll quickly talk about. We obviously, as I say, big NWA fans, so we branch out to the territories a little bit, and they done Exodus Pro Wrestling done Watch the Throne, which was their last show that they done on the NWA YouTube show. Myself and Fiona decided actually that we could watch that, so we'll watch that, and then the week of the show we'll interview a couple of the wrestlers that have been on there if they were available. We managed to get a few interviews done that week. We watched the show on the Saturday/Sunday. We reviewed the show on the Monday. I put it out Monday night, tagged all of the team, tagged all of Exodus in it, the ones that are on the show. Went to bed. Got up the next morning, and I had something along the lines of 56 notifications on Instagram. I was like, what's gone on? Like, someone, not being horrible, but somebody died. Do you know what I mean? Because that's generally... and it was everything, everyone from Exodus just sharing our stuff. And there was a message, there was two messages actually. One from Aaron Stevens, Damien Sandow, who's been on the show. And I just thought it was, when they share it and stuff like that, you sometimes get the message, don't you? But I opened the message up, and it was just him thanking us for the work, for everything that we've done for Exodus, what we've done for Exodus and for the NWA. And then EC3 messaged, personal message, and I'm just trying to get the message up actually so I can read it to you instead of trying to remember what he said. He did mention that we had a few people on, so I will here we go. So he says, "You really pumped everyone up with your logical and thankful takes, but thanks for giving us a voice in the realm, and we need it as we grow." And he's happy to jump on the podcast again in the future. And then we've tried to set up, but to have all of that and to have the outreach that we've had from them, it was just crazy to wake up the next day and see all of that coverage. And if you look at the post that we've done, you'll see him commenting on our post. EC3 if you go on our YouTube video of Watch the Throne, the review, he's commented and said there's a free ticket for you and Fiona if you ever make it up to an Exodus Pro show from the UK, which is great.
That's mad, isn't it?
It is crazy. It is mad.
Is it EC3 that promotes? Is it Exodus he promotes, or is it? Yeah. Because I remember it was there Exodus when a couple of years back the what's the word, reinstated, if that's the right word, the whole alliance side of things when it comes to the NWA, like the territories sort of side of things. Wasn't it them?
Yeah, that was them, and then it was them, and then they and then they branched out further now. So Exodus was part of the rebrand of the territories, along with NWA JCP, Joe Kazana Promotions, AJ Kazana's dad, NWA Chicago, Brian Idol wrestles there, NWA New Mexico. There's NWA Crossfire Wrestling, which is the Page sisters and their dad Tommy Henry, both Page sisters. We've had the privilege of having both of them on, and they're going to be megastars in the future. There's no doubt about it. I think I've managed to get them all currently. Anyway, and the Texoma Pro Dog Pound Wrestling. That's Jazz's promotion. Jazz and Rodney promotion. They are part of the territories as well. But you are right. Exodus is one of the ones that, when they brought the territories back, was one of the first territories that they had.
Yeah, it's great to see that they've actually, managed to bring it back. Really, do you know what I mean? Obviously, at the moment, it's nowhere near as big as what it was, 50, 60 years ago. But fingers crossed. I'll obviously give it time, of course, to help build it back up to try and put it back up to what it was beforehand. Do you know what I mean? And so would you ever like to attend an NWA show, whether it be NWA Power, one of the pay-per-views they do, or an NWA affiliate promotion at some point in the near future?
So Fiona has done.
Yeah.
Fiona went to the Crockett Cup when the Briscoes won it a few years ago. But to answer your question, I'd love to go to watch NWA. I would like, I know they've got one coming up called Samhain, which is one of my favorite shows that they done. The first one, it was fueled with controversy through to a skit that aired on that show. But I love the venue. But I would like to definitely go to one of those classic arenas that they use. Maybe not 2300. They do another one, Robots, I think it's called. I'd like to go there, but I'd like to do it where I could do an NWA taping, whether that be a pay-per-view taping or a power taping at the power station, and then go off from there to an Exodus Pro or a KFW. That would be great to do that.
Yeah. Personally, what's that? What's the place in Greensboro in the US? Is it the Greensboro Coliseum or something in North Carolina that was used a lot back in the day?
I think so.
Like personally, I'd like to, go to a show there. That's a very historic arena for the NWA, and for obviously pro wrestling as a whole. And obviously, like the 2300 arena, that's always had wrestling in it, really, in it. Do you know what I mean? And, again, with hitting the turnbuckle, as a whole, what has being involved with hitting the turnbuckle meant for Adam?
Oh man, it's a chance it's been a chance for me to live a dream of being involved in wrestling in ways. Obviously, never been able to wrestle, never been good enough to do that. And the wrestlers, any wrestler that steps foot in that ring deserves an incredible amount of credit, because they do put their lives on the line for us, really. And it is, that's a serious side of it. But for me, just to be involved, to be able to be interviewing some of those guys, and to get to a point now where I get a message from TNA saying that can you? I love the fact that they asked me, they need to ask, because the answer was always going to be yes anyway. But they asked me that. It just means everything. So I can never thank Andy enough for the opportunity to be able to come on here and to be a co-host initially, and now pretty much I'm hosting every show, which is great because people have to step away sometimes, right? There is business, there is other things in life that family and whatnot. So, but it means it's been. I've had so much fun these last few years, and they always say when the fun stops, stop. Right? That's a betting phrase, I know, but the fun is not near stopped yet for me on this, and I'd love every second of it.
Yeah, there's an Irish folk group that I follow, and the banjo player known as Barney McKenna, unfortunately, no longer with us. But he always used to say, it's too late to stop now, and what have you. So, I think, when it comes to with wrestling, being physically involved, it's that sort of thing where it's sort of hard to get out your system. Do you know what I mean? I don't really like to reference, certain narcotics when it comes to things like this, but wrestling is literally a legal narcotic that is, hard to sort of get out your system, really, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So what can we? So other than Ignite, are you involved or whatever with any other promotion here in the UK? Or?
We was with Progress for a year or so ago, but to be honest, no, not now. It's just Ignite. That's where we are. We'll travel to see other shows. Don't get me wrong. It doesn't mean to say that we won't travel. We're going to be doing a few little shows coming up actually in the next few weeks. But in terms of physically being a part of a show or partnering with a wrestling promotion, it is just Ignite at the minute.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah. So so just a sort of quick plug for hitting the Turnbuckle. Where can people who maybe have never heard of hitting the Turnbuckle, where can they find you guys on various forms of social media?
Yeah, so quite simple. It's at HTT Buckle. That is on YouTube. That is on X as well. Hitting the Turnbuckle Podcast on Instagram. I think we're on that other kind of Twittery thing, Blue Sky. I think that was Fiona set up. Hitting the Turnbuckle on there. Hitting the Turnbuckle on TikTok as well. So that's where they can find us. Or you can also find me with David Bartomoli and Will Scar. So they are two artists that do cover songs of wrestling themes. They're called If We Wrote the Theme. I partner a lot with them, so you can see a lot of us with them as well at some point in the future. But those are the handles that you need to know for us.
Yeah, that's right then. Yeah. So for those of you who are watching this either live or afterwards, be sure to go check out Hitting the Turnbuckle on pretty much every social media platform going. Honestly, I've been watching a few episodes the past few weeks, and they are really good watches. Like I must say, and I must say, I think that you guys are, really passionate when it comes to wrestling, and I do think the work that you put in does go noticed, if you know what I mean, if that's the right word. And go check that out. Have you got anything to add on to today's podcast?
I need to do a few shout outs, definitely, if that's okay. So I've mentioned Will Scar and David Bartholomew. Check them out if we wrote the theme. Just a load of other content creators that we've worked with over the last couple of years that need a shout out, that definitely need it. There's FTR, Follow the Revolution Facebook page. That is fronted by Gary Joe. He's a wonderful guy. He's a big AEW fan, but he's worked his nuts off like we all have, but he's done such a great job at that page, and he's genuinely one of the nicest people that I've met. There's the Cruising with Kayfabe podcast on Facebook and on X as well. Mongo and the team, again, they're big AEW fans, and they do a great job as well. I have to shout out Ringside Renaissance over in the US as well. They are Jesse and Andy, Andrew. They're two great guys, and their stuff has been crazy. It's blowing up everywhere, and they are some tremendous people as well. Obviously, I have to shout out Ignite. If I don't, I'll be in trouble. Ignite, and I have to go all my co-hosts, Andy, Parker, David, Fiona, Rachel, my partner, does a lot of the Instagram stuff, and just all the other wrestlers that we've worked with during these last few years. It's been an incredible ride. So thank you to every one of you guys.
See, people don't understand wrestling, do they? Do you know what I mean? It brings people like us together from all over the fucking world. Do you know what I mean? People don't understand, like the level of love that people have for each other in the world of pro wrestling. You know, you see, coming from an Arsenal fan, right?
That's not good news.
Sorry, what?
That's not good news to me. The what you just said. That's blasphemic. What you just said there.
Do I want to Am I heading towards a speck of Spurs for you, or? Oh, I liked you up until now, Adam.
Now's the time to switch off, everybody.
Oh dear.
Oh, I need to do one other shout out quick, and that's Essex Rescue, Liam Essex Rescue.
Oh, Liam,
he's a great guy.
Liam Priest. He's just such a sweetheart, isn't he? Absolute fantastic human being. I've known Liam a couple of years now through working with CXW, and mate, Essex Rescue. Find them on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Got an entire group on there with hundreds of members in it.
Yeah.
The shows he goes to, he does full in-depth reviews of every single match. You know, he honestly, the love that guy has for wrestling is just second to none. And honestly, he's such a great guy to speak to as well. I love that guy to pieces. And absolutely fantastic guy. Keep meaning to bring him on to the Nerdic Pro as well. That should hopefully be very, very soon that he'll be coming on to the Nerdic Pro. Hopefully for a regular sort of thing as well. And so again, Essex Rescue, go check that out. I can vouch for him as well. So but yeah, like what I was saying, you know, wrestling does bring everyone together. You know, when it comes to things like football, you know, you see all these people, you know, just getting, you know, absolutely apocalyptically, what's the word, paralytic, so to speak. You know, with all due respect, of 22 blokes kicking a sack of wind into some string. And literally, the hooliganism in football and what have you is just, why bother? In wrestling, you don't get that. You know what I mean? You know, obviously everyone's got to have their favourite company, whether it be WWE, whether it be AEW, Ring of Honor, TNA, Noah, All Japan, New Japan, Chikara, MLW, CMLL, AAA, whatever. Do you know what I mean? You know, but people don't go to shows to fight over it. Do you know what I mean? You know, and so bit of a tangent, I know. But, so yeah. Have you got anything else to add on to today's podcast?
I don't think so. I think I've covered everything so I don't get shot at by my partners and friends and everyone in there. So I think we're good.
So, Adam, I just want to say a massive thank you. Speaking of which, right, speaking of the devil, I've literally just had a notification come through on my phone. Liam Priest has mentioned me in a comment on Facebook. So, speaking of the devil. What was I saying? Yeah, so Adam, I just want to say a massive thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedule, as it has been, to take the time to come on to the Nerdic Pro podcast this evening. I do hope that this can potentially become a more regular thing with us as well. And so ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of the Nerdic Pro podcast, go check out the guys here at the Turnbuckle Podcast. Absolutely fantastic. So guys, absolutely fantastic wrestling podcast and content on there as well. And Adam, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure's been on my man. Thank you for inviting me onto the show, actually. And yes, we will do more stuff in the future for sure.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of the Nerdic Pro podcast, if you haven't already, please do hit that subscribe button. Join us tomorrow. Join myself here tomorrow for Nerdic Pro Weekly. What is it tomorrow? Episode of week number 203, I believe, and podcast episode. I think 350 something, or something like that. And officially announcing here on YouTube, November I'm going to shoot myself if it's the wrong date, but I believe it's Thursday the 13th of November. The Bullhead Brute, current NWA star, Mr. AJ Kazana, comes to the Nordic Pro podcast, as well as the week before, so November the 5th, which is a Wednesday, I believe. Current NWA star, as seen as a former WWE Tag Team Champion as well, Mr. Mike Mundo comes to the Nordic Pro podcast as well. So again, 2 big podcasts in November. And yeah, if you haven't already, go check out here in the Turnbuckle Podcast on all their socials. And yeah, we shall be seeing you all a bit later on. Thank you all very, very much for joining, and I shall be seeing you all later. Andy, thanks for coming on. But before we leave, we will go back into the lobby thing that we were in earlier. I did forget to mention that earlier. So, yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of the Nordic Pro, goodbye.